Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It's Monday, it's 9 o'clock. It's time for a 5x5. Now, if you've never seen a 5x5 before, the idea is simple. I take 5 subjects related to magic. I spend 5 minutes talking about each subject and then move on to the next subject. It's always quick. It's always snappy. You never know what you're going to get. And today we're going to be trying something new on this week's 5x5. I'm going to be doing 5 points, all related to a particular subject. And it's a really important subject, and it's something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, and I thought the perfect way to talk about this was in the context of a 5x5. So this week, I'm going to be talking about, and I've actually made notes. You know I'm always, I take something seriously when I make notes. I've got notes here. I'm going to be talking about 5 things that professional magicians should never do, ever, in their entire career. So if you're a professional magician or a semi-professional magician, or you go out and you make money from going and doing gigs, these are 5 things that you should never do. I'm not going to be talking about the tricks that you do. I'm not going to be talking about the level of your sleight of hand. I'm not going to be talking about how to market yourself. It's not that. It's just 5 points that I think that every professional magician should never do ever. Now, before I start, I'd like to ask you to leave a comment down below and let me know if you agree with me or disagree with me. Let's get a dialogue going. I'd really like to know your thoughts. These are only my opinions. Doesn't mean it's right, but it's 5 things that I feel very strongly about. And remember, I've been a professional magician for 30 years now, and these are 5 things that I absolutely, at this point in my career, would never do. So without further ado, let's get into it. The 5 things that a professional magician should never do. Number 1, the first thing a professional magician should never do is slag off TV magicians or TV shows to feed their own ego. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I see this happening all the time online. And frankly, it drives me nuts. I remember when Dynamo was on TV all of the time, and lay people were raving about Dynamo and how amazing he was. And I saw professional magicians, people who've been doing magic for a long time, replying in comments to YouTube videos and replying in comments on various different social media channels going, Dynamo's not that great, and all he does is camera tricks, and he couldn't do a lot of this stuff in the real world, and I'm better than Dynamo, and ask him to put a phone in a bottle, when you're at a gig with him and stuff like that. And it just comes across as pathetic, petty jealousy. It really does. It's the same with Britain's Got Talent. I've seen magicians go on Britain's Got Talent and they get 4 yeses and the judges rave about how amazing they are. And then in the comments on social media, and I'm not talking about private Facebook groups for magicians where you can discuss this openly. I'm talking about on public social media. I'm talking about making posts on their own Facebook page or commenting on the videos that are put out by Britain's Got Talent or something, going, this isn't very good. I've been a professional magician for 20 years and I can do better. Or even putting stuff on there like, I know how this is done. I do it better than this, or I've got a better method for that, whatever it may be. It's just pathetic. What is the point of doing that? What is the point of slagging off a particular magician or a particular performance on a TV show? What is the point? What are you trying to achieve from that? Are you trying to feed your own ego and tell everyone that you're better than Dynamo, you're better than David Blaine, or you're better than that person that appeared on Britain's Got Talent? Well, here's the thing. You're not. And I'm not, and you're not, because the bottom line is they're there and we're not. They went and they did something to get themselves on TV. They did something to get the viewing figures that they did, and they're now on TV. They've got a huge audience, and you haven't. And that's just the bottom line. Same with Britain's Got Talent. You could sit there and you could go, that guy in Britain's Got Talent isn't very good. I could do better than that. Well, yeah, maybe you could. But the bottom line is they went, they auditioned, they put an act together, and they got that publicity. They got that time on national primetime TV, and you didn't get that. You didn't, and they did. You didn't, and they did. And slagging them off does absolutely nothing other than paint magic in a bad light. There's going to be you need to think about the stuff that you put on social media, because there's going to be clients of yours that read that social media. There's going to be clients of yours or event planners or somebody that's going to see that sort of stuff. Whenever I speak to somebody at a gig, I always rave about everything I've seen. Have you seen Dynamo? Oh yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. brilliant, isn't he? Have you seen him put a phone in a bottle? Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? It looks really, really good. Can you do that? Well, I do something similar. I don't put a phone in a bottle, but I do something similar than that. Because here's the thing. Ultimately, any publicity on TV is good publicity. Any time magic is portrayed in a positive light, whether it's on Britain's Got Talent, America's Got Talent, a daytime television show, a primetime television show, Dynamo, David Blaine, Chris Angel, the list goes on and on and on. Whenever magic is put in that platform, it puts magic in a good light. When Richard Jones won Britain's Got Talent, every other magician benefited from that because there were people watching that and they were like, oh my gosh, I want that at my event. And they can't all book Richard Jones, they can't all afford Richard Jones, but they might be able to afford you. Instead of slagging him off, how about you put a blog on your website going on about how, oh, congratulations to Richard Jones, it was an amazing performance, blah, 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 something like that. Use this publicity in a positive way rather than using it in a negative way. That's something that I've had to learn over time. And, back in the day, I actually wrote negative blogs, and it was stupid looking back. I was an absolute idiot, but young and dumb. That was the thing. But the bottom line is, take it from my experience. Whenever anybody is on television, use it as an opportunity to promote magic. There are going to be people that you will benefit. There are going to be people that will book a magician now because of seeing something on television that might not have booked one before. How many times have you bumped into somebody at a wedding fair, or you've had an inquiry online, oh, my fiance really loves magic, or whatever, or the restaurant wants magic now. You can get a residency in a restaurant because of how popular magic is on TV and they want a bite of the cherry, or whatever it is. Stop slagging off TV magicians. Stop slagging off people that go on television and perform magic just to make yourself feel better. You're not as good as them, and if you were as good as them, put up and shut up. If you think you're better than that act on Britain's Got Talent, then shut up, go out and audition and put yourself into that position. Then you can say you're better than that act on Britain's Got Talent. But if you're just sitting at home and you've never been on TV and you're just bitter because they're doing it and you're not, well, just pull your finger out and go and do it yourself. Okay, so the second thing a professional magician should never do is take on work they're not able to do in a time frame that makes it impossible to do a good job. Now, what do I mean by that? I see it all the time. And it drives me up the wall. I see it. Somebody will post on a Facebook group online going, hey, I've got a stage show in a week's time. I've only ever done close-up to 2 people before. I've got to do a stage show to 500 people. And what tricks do you think I can do? Will ambitious card work? No, ambitious card will not work to 500 people on stage. It will not, I repeat, will not work to 500 people on stage unless you've got projection on stage on massive screens, which is highly unlikely as you've never done a stage show before in your life. If you want to take on different types of magic, I'm all for that. I'm all for bettering yourself. I'm all for evolving. I'm all for going in different directions with your magic. That's going to be a point that's going to come up a little bit later on. I'm all for that. But what you don't want to do is put yourself in a position where you're going to fail and therefore put magic in a bad light. People talk all the time about how they want magic to be taken seriously as an art form. The way to take magic seriously is to make sure that you treat it with the reverence and respect that it deserves. So when you get that, you're a close-up magician. You've maybe done a couple of close-up jobs or a few close-up jobs. You're a really good close-up magician. You get that phone call for that stage show that is in a week's time. Don't say yes, because you will never be ready. You haven't got the material. You haven't got the routines. Even if you had the routines, you've never performed on stage before. You don't know about stagecraft. You don't know about microphone technique. You don't know about projection. You don't know about a million different subjects that you need to know about in order to go and do that job successfully. And if you don't do it successfully and you die on your ass, what's going to happen is every single person in that audience is going to watch your performance and they're going to go, oh, magic's crap. Because that's what happens when people, how many times have you met somebody at a gig and they've gone, oh, magic, I don't like magic. And you ask them why, and it's like, it's normally because they've seen a bad magician. You don't get that with singing. You don't have somebody go, I don't like music, because they saw a bad singer once. They just assume that there's bad singers. But for some reason, some people see a bad magician and they decide they don't like magic, right? Don't be the person that puts magic in a bad light. Now, if you get a call and you're like, hey, in 6 months' time, I've got an inquiry for an event. It's a 15-minute stage spot and I'd like somebody. Great. Absolutely fantastic. Brilliant. If you've got enough time to actually put the effort in to make sure that you actually do a great job, brilliant. And I'm speaking from experience here. I remember the first time I was booked for a comedy club, I died on my arse. I put no effort in at all. I didn't think about the choice of material. I didn't think about the scripting. I didn't think about the lines. And I went there and I died on my arse. And it was the most horrible experience I've ever had in my life. Could you fluke it? Maybe. But is it worth it? No. It's the same for people that go, my uncle's asked me to do a kid's party. I've only ever done card tricks. It's tomorrow. What shall I do? Will this trick work? Don't do it. The skill set that it takes to be able to do kids' magic is completely different to what you need to do to be a close-up magician or a stage magician. Is kids' magic awesome? Yes, I absolutely love it. But it's not something that you can do in 2 or 3 days' time if you've got no props, because dealing with children is a completely different thing. They will eat you alive. Kids are absolutely 100% honest. If they love you, they will tell you. But if they hate you, they will just stand up and walk off. And it's a horrible experience. What you want to do is, yes, evolve. Yes, get better. Yes, set goals and improve yourself and go and do other venues and other types of magic. Absolutely. But if you get that inquiry where it's like, hey, I've got a gig in 4 days' time, will you do it? And it's something that you've never done before and you haven't got the skill set or the trick selection or the repertoire or whatever it is to go and do that, don't do it. Instead, hand it over to someone else and say, well, I can't do it, but I've got somebody who I can recommend. Can I get them to give you a call? And then get an expert in that area, hand the gig over to them and ask them if you can go along and watch, because that's something you want to be doing yourself in the future. But honestly, it's not good for magic. It's not good for your own career, and it's not good for your own state of mind, because you'll be stressed out to the max. Okay, the third thing that professional magicians should never do is try to poach other magicians' work. It's a big no-no. Why would you want to do that? There's enough work out there for everybody. Don't try and poach other magicians' work. I remember many years ago, I had a restaurant residency in a place near me, and I'd been doing it for years, and it was a Sunday lunchtime residency. It ran from 12 till 3, and it was the easiest gig in the world. It was always rammed, it was always busy, and I always had a great time. And I had a friend, I say had because I haven't seen them in years because of this, but I had a friend who I asked to cover it for me for 2 or 3 weeks because I was going away for 2 or 3 weeks. I wouldn't be able to do it, and I asked them to cover it for me. When I came back, I had lost the residency because the guy had gone in for 2 or 3 weeks and he'd asked them what I charged. And he'd said, hey, I'll do it 20% less. And even though I built up goodwill with that restaurant, he went in, he undercut me. Even though I put him in there to cover me, he undercut me and he took the gig. The irony is I'd had it for years, and 6 months later, he'd lost it. And, I think I know why, but I'm not going to get into that now. But that's a perfect example of poaching somebody's work. It's a small industry. We should all try and help each other, not knock each other down. I get people contacting me all the time saying, hey, can you help me with this gig? Can you help me with that gig? Not just magicians, but other entertainers in other industries, and, face painters and caricaturists and DJs will ring me and say, hey, I've had an inquiry for a magician. Will you come and help me? We should all be able to pass each other work, and we should never try and poach work off people. Another example I can give you is I had a friend of mine who literally, well, okay, I say a friend, he was an acquaintance, friendly, but I had a corporate job, a 4-magician corporate job, and I got there and we were all getting ready, and this guy was putting his business cards in his pocket, and I was like, hey, this is my gig, I'd rather you not give your business cards out. And he was arguing with me in the green room and saying, no, you've booked me to be here, I'm giving out my business cards. And I was like, no, you're not. If you want to give out business cards, give out my business cards, not your own business cards. And we had a kind of a bit of an argument in the green room, and I literally told him, if you don't put away your business cards, then you're going. going right now. I don't care. I'll just tell the client that they've only got 3 magicians and not 4. That's how it works. If it's your gig and you're having somebody come in and help you, then you don't give out your own business cards at that gig. Stop trying to poach work off other people. If you're that desperate for work, then learn some marketing. Go read a book. Read Marketing 101. Try and figure out how to market your own business. But you should never, ever, ever try to poach other magicians' work. And I see it happening all the time. It's absolutely despicable. It's going to give you a bad name in this industry, and you're going to have people who aren't going to be wanting to book you anymore. And you're never going to get any of these gigs where there's multiple magicians. It's never going to happen because people can't trust you. You've only got one chance to make a first impression, and your reputation is everything. It's a small industry, and if you're running around poaching work off people, the word will get around sooner rather than later, and your name will be mud. The way to deal with that is to not do it. Be the guy that everybody wants to work with. Be the guy that everybody wants to work with. Because if you are the guy that everyone wants to work with, you'll be getting work left, right, and centre from everybody. You'll have people passing your work all over the place. But not if you're trying to poach work off people. So that's the next point that I would say. If you're a professional magician, don't try and poach work off other magicians. Okay, the fourth thing that a professional magician should never, ever, ever do is slag off entertainers that you deem beneath you. And I see it all the time. It's almost like there's a pecking order in magic. First of all, you've got face painters, I think, is probably at the bottom. Then you've got kids entertainers. Then you've got clowns, sorry. Then you've got kids entertainers. Then you've got family entertainers. Then you've got close-up magicians. Then you've got stage magicians. Then you've got illusionists at the top. That's how it feels sometimes. And I've seen every single level slag every other level off. I absolutely get sick and tired of people slagging off kids entertainers and looking down at them. Oh, you're only a kids entertainer, are you? I'll tell you right now that most kids entertainers are better entertainers than any close-up magician. Here's the solid fact. Here's the cold, hard fact for you. That's probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but frankly, I don't give a damn. Close-up magic is not difficult. You can go and you can literally within 2 or 3 weeks, as long as you've got a brain on your head and as long as you're able to string 2 sentences together, you can go and do a close-up job with very minimal skill and go and do a good job. I give you exhibit A, Matt Cluley. I took Matt, he had a head on his shoulder, he was an experienced actor, so therefore he could present, but he had no clue about magic at all. And after 2 or 3 weeks, I had him going out to gigs and doing a great job. And now he's going out to doing gigs and he's doing a fantastic job, stage jobs and close-up, after only doing this for 3 or 4 months, right? It's not a difficult thing to do. If you're a close-up magician, understand, yes, you could maybe be doing some really technical stuff that's took you years to do, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I could put you in a room with Matt, and Matt could go out and do all of his self-working stuff that he does, and I know he'd get just as good a reaction. Close-up magic is not a difficult thing to do, and I'm sick and tired of seeing absolutely terrible magicians. I've been to restaurants and seen terrible close-up magicians who can barely stumble their way through a sentence, that don't know how to speak, that have never read How to Win Friends and Influence People, that don't know about sleight of hand, don't know about personal, how to build up a relationship between an audience, and they just go up and they go, hello, I'm a magician, pick a card, please, is that your card? And it drives me up the wall. I'm like, this is what's making magic look bad. And then those same people, and I've seen it, those same people will go and slag off kids entertainers. Oh, I'm a close-up magician. You're just a disgusting kids entertainer. Well, I'll tell you right now, your average kids entertainer that could go and do a close-up gig with a bunch of kids props and would probably do a better job than your accomplished sleight of hand people. I've seen big names in this industry, big name close-up magicians that are meant to be absolutely brilliant, that have multiple projects out that people revere. And I've seen them, I've gone to gigs with them, and I've watched them, and they are worried sick of approaching a table, because you see them, they're like, and then they walk up to the table and then they walk off, and because their stuff that they do, whilst technically impressive, is boring as hell. absolutely boring as hell. I remember Nemeth Phoenix telling me once that the funniest thing he ever saw was a particular situation in a particular magic club that I'm not going to mention, where two really boring magicians were arguing about who was the most entertaining. And that's the thing. A lot of these really technical magicians, not all of them, I'm not painting everyone with the same brush, but a lot of these really technical close-up magicians that have like a huge following because they're so amazing and look at their visual magic, they couldn't really go out and perform very, very well because they had lack the presentational skills. Or what's even more annoying is they go up to a banquet style situation where they're big tables of 10 and they perform to 2 people, and they only perform to 2 people. The best close-up magicians I've ever seen in a banquet situation are magicians that have got experience on stage, whether that be kid shows or cabaret or illusion shows, because they know how to project to an entire table, because they've learned how to do it on stage. So they'll walk up to the whole table and they'll say, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen," and they'll get everybody involved, as opposed to just dribbling over 2 people and pretending that that's the best job that they can do. So stop slagging off people that you consider to be beneath you. I've seen close-up magicians slag off illusionists. You're illusionist, are you? Oh, that's rubbish. All you do is you point at boxes, don't you? You just point and spin at boxes. No, there's a hell of a lot more to it than that. There's a hell of a lot more to it than that. And I guarantee you that that illusionist that you're seeing on stage that's just pointing at a box and spinning it around has done far more to get to that level than you ever will. You have to think about musicality. You have to think about stagecraft. You have to think about cues. You have to think about a million different things that your average close-up magician doesn't even consider. But it works in reverse. If you're an illusionist, stop looking down at close-up magicians. Stop looking down at kids entertainers. Look, we're all entertainers at the end of the day, whether it be entertaining this type of person or this type of person. The key point, and I wrote it down here, stop slagging off other entertainers you deem beneath you. Stop it. We should be building each other up. I have massive respect for kids entertainers. I have massive respect for face painters. Good God. The one time I tried to do face painting because a face painter let my company down and wasn't able to turn up, so I went and did it with some stencils and some face painting. It was the most horrible experience I've ever known. I have so much respect for face painters, close-up magicians, illusionists, everybody, because it's a very difficult thing to do, and you should have respect for these people. We shouldn't be slagging each other off. We should be building each other up. It kind of ties into point 1, but it's within the industry as well as externally. So stop slagging off other entertainers you deem beneath you. And the 5th and the final thing that you should never do, if you're a professional or a semi-professional magician or somebody who goes out and makes money from magic, the 5th thing you should never do is stagnate. You should always be evolving. Look, I have met magicians who, and it's normally close-up magicians, but not always, but I've met magicians who go out and they have been doing the same act for the last 15, 20 years. They do the same 5 or 6 tricks, and that's it. They have one set, and they do that one set to every single table. They do that one set over and over and over and over and over and over again. I remember going to a close-up job a few years ago with a huge name in the industry, and it was an hour of walk around magic and then an hour and a half of table magic afterwards. And we did the walk around magic and everything was fine, and they were doing a great job and everything was going great. And then we had a 10-minute break while we were waiting for them to go in to do tables so we could do table magic. And the guy turned around to me and said, "Would you mind if I you cover anybody who I performed for, because they've already seen my stuff?" And I was like, "What, haven't you got another set?" And they were like, "No, just do the same thing." And I've seen people like that just do the same tricks over and over and over again. And it just baffles the brain. I couldn't do that. I would be bored senseless. If I did the same 5 or 6 tricks over and over again and I never changed my repertoire ever, I would just be bored. I would just be so bored. And I know it's a nerve-wracking experience. I know it's a nerve-wracking thing because I've done it. You know, you buy that trick from the magic convention. You've gone to the magic convention. You've gone to Blackpool and you've seen this trick and it's an amazing trick and you've seen it demoed and you're like, "Oh, it's amazing." So you take it home and you practice it, don't you? And you practice it and you're like, "Right, I think I've got it now." And you've practiced it on your wife and on your kids and right, it's ready now. I'm ready. So you put it in your close-up case, or you put it in your stage case, or you put it in your kid show case or whatever. And you go to the gig and you get to the gig and you open it up and you're like, "Right, no, I'm going to leave it in the case. This looks like I need to just focus on the stuff that I already do. And so you leave it in the case and you go to a few gigs and it stays in the case. And then maybe eventually it goes in the pocket, but it stays in the pocket and you don't do it because you're worried about doing it. It's a nerve-wracking thing. Putting something new into your show, whatever type of magician you are, whatever type of entertainer you are, putting a new bit into your show is always difficult. It's always awkward, and it's always nerve-wracking. But the only way to evolve, the only way to get better over time is to constantly improve. And that's what you need to do. I look at my solid repertoire that I have right now, and if I'd have just stuck to what I was doing 15 years ago, none of that would be in my repertoire. If I just stuck to what I'd do 15 years ago, I would not be as good a magician as I am right now, because I would have just stuck with the same old crap, and that wouldn't be a good thing. We need to evolve. We need to push ourselves to become, to work in new areas. You know, if you're a close-up magician, put a floor show together, put a parlor show together. If you do parlor shows, put a cabaret show together. If you do cabaret shows, the point is you should always be improving and getting better. And if you do close-up, right, okay, I do all card tricks. Well, let's throw some coin tricks in. I do mentalism. Great, let's put some mentalism in that doesn't involve cards or doesn't involve, let's do some propless mentalism, whatever it may be. Always evolve, always get better, always improve over time. Don't stagnate. Don't just do the same tricks because they work, because the bottom line is you're going to get booked again and again and again, and you don't want to be in a situation like this guy is that I told you about, where you're struggling to actually go and, because I've been there, right? Matt talked about this on this channel recently. He talked about this. The problem is you go to a gig, and it happened to him. He said to me, oh, I only need 5 tricks and I can go and do a gig. And I was like, no, you need way more than that, because you never know what environment or what situation you're getting into. And lo and behold, he took the booking. And they said there was going to be 40 or 50 people there. He was there for 2 hours and there were 12 people. And he was so glad that he had a big repertoire so that he could, or a bigger repertoire than he planned to have, so that he could cover that amount of people for that amount of time. And you never know what environment you're getting into. And you don't want to be in a situation where you're saying to the person there, I remember happening once. I remember it happening. Gosh, there was a guy, I can't say his name. I'm not going to say his name. He used to work for Slightly Unusual. He doesn't anymore. And we sent him to a wedding and we got a huge complaint. We never get complaints for Slightly Unusual. We got a big complaint. And the reason we got a big complaint was because this guy, he went to this, he was booked to 3 hours close-up magic, I think it was. And he went to do close-up magic at this wedding, and he did half an hour, and then he said to the bride, I need to go for 15 minutes. I've run out of tricks. I need to get more from the car. And it's just like, oh, you don't say that to the client. Good grief! I could go to a gig with a deck of cards, just a single regular deck of cards, and have 30 or 40 tricks that I could do. I could go with 4 regular coins and do multiple different routines. Now that's because I've been doing this for a long time, but it's also because I'm passionate about learning new material, new moves, new sleights, new sequences, because I want to get better. I want to have a bigger repertoire, and I want my set to improve. Every single time I do a show, I want that show to be better than the show that I did before. And the only way that I can do that, the only way that I can guarantee that, is by making sure that I evolve and I don't stagnate. So there you go, guys. That's another 5x5 in the bag. A little bit of a different one, this one, but this is but I want to know what you think in the comments down below. Do you agree? Are these 5 things that you would agree with? Are you a professional magician? Do you do any of these 5 things? And do you agree with me or do you disagree with me? Are you an amateur or a hobbyist? And do you disagree with me or do you agree with me? I want to know in the comments down below. Don't forget, I'll be back again all this week with more videos. If you want to see more videos like this, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. And if you do want to learn new moves, new sleights and new techniques and new routines, then you might as well join the Netrix. How's that for a link? Go to www.thenetrix.com. We have a 0.08% cancellation rate because nobody wants to cancel, because we are amazing and there's so much awesome content on the Netrix. You know, it's £14.99 a month. We're uploading new routines all of the time. It's been going almost a year now, and it is doing brilliantly. So thank you, everybody. If you're a subscriber to the Netrix, I really appreciate it. I will be back again soon. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Craig from Magic TV.